back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to do a little bit of a get ready with me, and we are going to also do a little bit of a life update. This life update comes very unexpected, but we're going to talk about it. And as you can tell by the title, I quit my job, and we're going to talk a little bit about why I quit grooming. I have been a dog groomer for almost 4 years now, and just recently I made the decision to quit grooming. This has been a very difficult decision for me to make. This has not been an easy decision for me to make. Gosh, my skin is so angry. So for those of you who have followed my grooming journey very closely, you kind of know how I got started. But for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to give a quick little synopsis about it. So I started my grooming journey back in April of 2020, so 4 years ago, and I was going to attend a grooming school. So I would be going to grooming school full-time, 5 days a week, 8 to 4, and that is where I would be getting hands-on training and learning and things like that, because you definitely can't just groom a dog without knowing what the heck you're doing, right? So I paid for school. I was going to get ready to kind of transform my life and just be a full-time grooming student. And then, of course, this was in 2020, and in April of 2020 is right when the COVID-19 pandemic really picked up. And unfortunately, due to COVID, my grooming school that I was going to be attending in person completely shut down, okay? So my chance at getting full-on, hands-on training was crushed immediately. So then they gave me the option to either get a full refund and just move on from that, or I could do their online distance program and still learn how to groom, but I would have to find a third-party salon to let me come in and get my hours and my practice there. So I was not ready to give up on my dream of becoming a dog groomer. So I decided to do the online program, and I found a vet clinic that had groomers. Now, I have been going to this vet clinic as a client for my pets for years. So I reached out to them and I said, hey, longtime client here, studying to be a dog groomer, just wondering if I could come in and apprentice there, get some hands-on experience. And thankfully, they were very gracious enough to let me do that. Right away, starting my grooming journey was very stressful because my school shut down. I was basically learning all by myself. And then in June of 2020, I started apprenticing at this vet clinic, at the grooming part of the vet clinic. And I loved it. I fell in love with it right away. I had no idea that, spending my day with dogs, which I love dogs, it just literally awoke something in me, and it was just such a wonderful experience, and I was just so excited. It was still very hard though, because I was learning under the groomer that was already there, and I was doing a lot of watching and just kind of observing, things like that. And then finally in September of 2020, I was offered a position to work there. I can't even tell you how excited I was for that to happen. I was just so grateful that they were giving somebody like me a chance, because I'm very kind of hard on myself, and I'm the kind of person that I feel like I don't ever really deserve a chance at things. I'm just very negative when it comes to stuff like that. But I was very excited, I was very grateful, and I started grooming there with the other groomers, still learning because I was still very new. But it was also very difficult for me because grooming didn't come naturally to me. Because I'm a firm believer that when it comes to dog grooming, there are two types of people. Okay, there are the people who start dog grooming and they have a natural talent for it, they pick it up right away and they're good right away. And then there are another group of people like me who really struggle with it. I had such a hard time picking it up and learning it and being good at it. I was very, very good at like the book work and like the technicalities of it, but actually like grooming, I really, really struggled with. And it has always been that way. Like, grooming just did not come naturally to me. I just was not very good at it, and I really beat myself up about it. And what made it harder is that I wasn't able to go to school like I had originally planned on because the school shut down, basically. So it was just all around a very, very difficult start for me. And I was working under this groomer, which was very, very helpful, and she was able to help me a lot. And then this groomer eventually left, so she went on to go work at a different salon, and that left me completely on my own, okay? Still kind of a new groomer, under a year in, like, still not fully confident in what I'm doing, and it literally went from, just finishing school to being the only groomer at this grooming salon, okay? So that was very, very scary. It was very, very stressful. And again, like, grooming just did not come naturally to me. It was very, very difficult for me to catch on to things. It was very difficult for me to learn things. And my grooms just didn't look good. So then after the other groomer left, it was just me, like I said, and I went from working a couple days a week just to get some practice, just to get some more hands-on experience. I went from that to working 6 days a week. So Monday through Saturday, I was working. I was working 6 days a week as a new groomer. And if there's one thing you have to be careful about in grooming, or any job for that matter, is you have to be very careful of burnout, okay? Burnout is a very real thing in this industry, and it can happen to pretty much almost anybody, and it can happen either right in the beginning or it can happen years down the road. For me, it happened when I was working 6 days a week for like 3 to 4 months. It was some of the hardest times I ever went through because, again, I was still a new groomer and I had, so many clients, counting on me and expecting the same quality of grooms, which was very, very hard on me because, I was still a new groomer. And when you're a new groomer, your grooms they don't look the best, right? So I went through a very severe case of burnout very, very early, like a year into grooming. I experienced some of the worst burnout that I probably ever will experience with the job. And I started to lose that fire and lose that passion that I once had for it. And that is not a good sign at all. So finally I made the decision to, speak up for myself. And I said, listen, I can't do 6 days a week anymore. Like it's literally killing me. I can't do it anymore. So then I went down to 3 days a week. And that definitely did help a little bit, but I still couldn't really get myself out of that burnout period. And I was taking time off, I was taking vacations, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I just couldn't get myself out of it. I just feel like I was pretty much kind of like thrown to the wolves, so to speak, when it comes to grooming. Like I literally fresh out of school, still learning, to being like, okay, you're on your own 6 days a week. Like it was a lot. It was very overwhelming. And another thing that, really started to get to me that really it was really kind of setting off my temper is the clients, okay? Now, don't get me wrong. I had some amazing clients. I had very sweet clients. I had very understanding clients. But you don't understand how mean people can be until you get into vet med, okay? I don't know what it is about vet med, but it just brings out the worst in some people, and they just get so volatile and so mean. And so dealing with people who were, in a sense, neglecting their dogs and bringing their dogs into me completely pelted, matted, and me being a groomer, my job is to look out for the health of your animal. So whenever I would have to shave a dog down, whenever I would help a dog to make them feel better because their owner hasn't brought them in for grooming in over a year, people were just so mean. I was called incompetent. I was called names because I just could not understand why people were getting so upset with me for me just simply helping their dog, okay? If you do not brush your dog, if you do not bring your dog in for regular groomings, they are going to get shaved. I'm sorry, that's just the reality of it. And I am not someone that is going to coddle you because you were irresponsible and neglectful. When you get a dog, you are making a 10 to 15 year commitment to keep that dog happy and healthy, okay? And that also includes their hair health. Now, mind you, there are some dogs that don't need regular every 6-week grooming appointments, but a great majority of dogs in the grooming industry need to be seen at least every 6 weeks, right? And these people were coming in once a year, maybe even twice a year. And they were matted to the point where it was becoming dangerous to their health. And I just couldn't, I just got even more burned out because I just couldn't handle people being upset with me when it's not even my fault that your dog got shaved. You know what I mean? And I know if you're not a groomer, this probably doesn't make sense to you. If you're not a groomer and your dog ever got shaved, you're probably like, well, they shouldn't have shaved my dog. I get it. But if you're a groomer, you totally understand what I'm talking about right now. Like, you understand to a T what I am talking about right now. And it was just very, very emotionally exhausting. I couldn't handle it. And also, and working in a vet clinic, honestly, I'm so glad I did that. I loved working in a vet clinic, okay? You got to see so many different sides of pets when you work in a vet clinic than when you would in just a normal, like, brick and mortar grooming shop. Like, you get to see more of like the medical side of things. You get to experience different types of behaviors in a vet clinic, because when you're a vet clinic groomer, you get a lot of ill temperament dogs that are either aggressive, dogs that bite, dogs that have to be sedated for grooming, things like that. So my first kind of jump into the grooming world was very intense because I would get some dogs that were just, very, very scared, very aggressive, dogs that most groomers would not take in their shop, basically. So a vet clinic groomer, we usually get, now not all the time, we do have some really, really good clients as well, dogs that don't need to be sedated and that are perfectly well behaved. But sometimes, grooming in a vet clinic, you do get to see some dogs that have been kicked out of every other grooming shop in the nearby areas because of their behavior. And it did kind of scare me at first, obviously, like working with aggressive dogs, but at the same time, I'm so incredibly grateful for that because it kind of taught me more about body language and different types of things to watch out for and different ways to handle things and just things like that. So working in a vet clinic, honestly, was probably one of the best experiences, and I'm so glad I started my grooming career in a vet clinic, I guess, because it was great. Like, I learned so much. But again, that also leads to a lot of mental burnout. So not only was I thrown in as a new groomer working 6 days a week, clients, getting upset with me, dealing with dogs' behavior, getting bit, constantly having to watch myself. It just caused a lot of mental burnout. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I really, I gotta do something. And, I had a bather, I had somebody to help me bathe, I still just, I just couldn't get over this feeling that I was feeling. So eventually we hired on another groomer, and I decided to go down to, I was working 3 days a week, I was doing 4 dogs a day, and they all had to be under 50 pounds because doing what I was doing for so long really took a toll on my body, and I was starting to get really horrible back pain. My wrist was starting to show signs of early onset carpal tunnel, and I just couldn't do these large, unruly dogs anymore because I'm a very tiny person, and I'm not the kind of person that likes to use my height as an excuse of why I can't do something. I don't like to do that. I like to think that I am just as capable as anybody else, to do this job. I weigh 90 pounds, I'm 4'6", and half the dogs I was doing, they weighed more than me, and I was just getting thrown all around the grooming table, and I just couldn't physically handle it anymore. And I was doing really good for a while. And, you know, then just some things started to kind of change. I was still really struggling with imposter syndrome. I was constantly beating myself up over the way my grooms looked. I didn't think that I was capable. I didn't think that I was good enough. I thought all of my grooms sucked. I just wasn't happy with anything. And I just started to get really, really hard on myself. And, you know, they didn't look horrible. Like, they weren't like, oh my God, you sent that home. It wasn't like that. It was just, I don't know, I was just constantly comparing myself to the other groomer. I just wasn't, I don't know. I was just really, really hard on myself to the point where I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I still was trying to find that fire and that passion that I had for grooming that I just was slowly starting to lose. As a dog groomer, you know your job. You know the proper safety steps to take for that job. You know, you can't just put a dog on the table and force them through a groom. You know, all dogs have limits, and as groomers, we are working with very, very sharp objects on a moving target. And if a dog is just not going to let you do something, they're not going to let you do it. And it's very difficult to kind of express that to somebody who isn't a groomer. And that was probably the most frustrating thing for me. I believe that if you're gonna work with animals, and no matter in any capacity, you have to be the voice for that animal, okay? And that is the kind of person I am, because animals are so innocent. If a dog isn't gonna let me do something, I'm not gonna force him through it. I kind of have a hard time with authority anyway. I don't really like to be told, you know, what to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, even though I don't really like authority, I was still a very good employee. Like, I always did everything that was asked of me without throwing a fit. You know, I was a good employee. I didn't protest or anything like that. And another, like, big issue is, like, the scheduling. You know, back when I was doing large dogs, there would be, like, 5 large dogs a day that would take, like, 3 hours at a time, and it's like, you can't schedule it like that. You have to break it up throughout the day. And, you know, it's not my business. Like, I don't run the business, so I'm not going to tell somebody how to run the business. So for the longest time, I just kind of sucked it up. And again, that just caused a really, really bad bout of burnout. And it just turned into, you know, me going into work not feeling good. Like, I was going into work and I was just having feelings of just constant anxiety and constant worry. And as time went on, it started just to get worse. I'm not going to tell you guys how much I made. I was an hourly employee. I was not commission, which I know a lot of groomers say that's a red flag, but to me, I liked being an hourly employee because it was a guaranteed wage every hour, basically. Whereas commission, you know, that depends on how many dogs you do a day. But I liked being an hourly employee, and I was not paid very much at all. But the reason why I justified it, and the reason why I never minded that and I never threw a fit about it, is because when you work at a vet clinic, you get, you know, discounts on vet services, on food, on medications, on exams, on shots. And I was very, very grateful for that. So the amount of money I was making did not bother me, like, at all, because I was getting help with my pets. I was getting help with my animals. So that's kind of how I justified it. And so I went and I put my 2 weeks in, and then I was offered a sabbatical, which basically means, you know, wait, don't put your 2 weeks in yet. Take this paid time off to really think about it. And my boss there was very sweet, very understanding, okay? I do not think that this place is a bad place. I just don't think it was the right fit for me, okay? My boss, I had two bosses. Both of my bosses were always very kind, patient, generous, understanding with me, because I had struggles for years there, and they were just very sweet, and they said, you know, take this time off. We're going to figure something out. We're going to get this fixed. You know, don't worry, we'll get it handled. And I was like, okay, I will take the leave. So I took the sabbatical, and every single day it was a constant battle with myself. I was weighing the pros, I was weighing the cons, I was, juggling all this stuff in my head. And I every time I thought about going back to work, I just got this overwhelming cloud of anxiety and dread of going back. And I was like, okay, that's not a good thing. It's not supposed to be like that. I don't want to go back only giving 50% of myself when this business and these animals deserve 100%. I can't do it. We're on this earth for such a short amount of time. And do I really want to spend the next however many years going to work feeling nothing but anxiety and fear of, what are we going to be asked to do next? What is the schedule going to look like today? Like, did the schedule get fixed? Like, what's going to happen? It just became too much. And I made the final decision to officially resign and quit. It was so hard for me to do because I don't hate the place. I don't hate the job. I just felt like at this point in time in my life, I can't do it right now. I just can't do it. And I thought maybe during this 1 month sabbatical that maybe something would change and maybe taking a really long break would help, but it didn't. And that's really unfortunate, because I was really hoping that something would change, but I just couldn't do it anymore. So, after I put my, resignation in and told them that I was going to be leaving, they were very understanding. They were very polite about it. They told me they just want me to be happy. And I went in a couple days later and got my stuff, and that was the end of it. Man, it's been very difficult for me to kind of process this. And another thing that I really liked about working there is they let me look like me, Because, every other job I've worked, I had to change my appearance. I couldn't have, piercings. I had to cover my tattoos. But they were very open on letting me look how I wanted to look. And I've never had that before. And it's really unfortunate that wherever I end up going next, I might have to change my appearance or kind of dumb down my appearance to fit this societal mold. But, I was treated just like everybody else, but I was able to look how I wanted to look. And it was just a hard decision. Like, I'm going to miss the dogs. I'm going to miss, being there. I had my own little room where, it was just me and the dog, and I could just spend time with them. And yeah, it was a very hard decision, but I feel at peace with my decision. I made the right choice. I don't feel any ounce of regret for leaving. I'm going to miss it, absolutely, but I don't feel any regret, which also tells me that I made the right decision. As far as what the future holds, I have no idea. I have not been unemployed in a very long time, and I'm officially unemployed. And oh boy, this is not the time to be unemployed. The economy is absolutely awful. So I did really kind of take a risk by leaving a job without having another one lined up, So it's a little stressful, but I'm okay. I'll be all right. I do have another job kind of lined up. It's not a grooming job or anything. It's just going to be something that, I can do really quickly just to bring in a little extra money, because there is no one hiring right now, and there is nobody hiring groomers right now. So, as far as my future with grooming, I don't know right now. I really don't know. Will I ever groom again? Absolutely. Will I, quit grooming forever? No, I'm not going to say that, because, I feel that once you become a dog groomer, there will always be a little part of you that is always and forever a dog groomer. You know what I mean? I feel like there's just something about the industry that once you get in it, you can't really ever fully leave. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's once a groomer, always a groomer, basically. So yeah, I think there will always be some part of me that will always be grooming in some capacity. You know, like I told my mom I would still groom her dogs. I'm still gonna groom my dog at home, you know, things like that. But I think I really wish, because again, like I said earlier, I don't really like authority. I feel like it would be a dream to have a little kind of like she shed, a little grooming she shed at home. Like if I ever got a house or property or something, I would absolutely love to groom at home, and I be my own boss. I make my own schedule. I call the shots. I get to pick, you know, what breeds I do and don't want to do, what prices I want to have. Like, I feel like that would make me the most happy, because I would be able to call the shots, you know? So that would be definitely something as a long-term goal. But for right now, I am going to be stepping away from grooming, just because, you know, I just can't do it right now. I just can't. I got so incredibly mentally, physically, spiritually burned out from it. I don't know. And maybe that's a sign that grooming just isn't for me, because I've only been in the industry a very, very short amount of time. Like 4 years is not very long. And for me to get burned out so quickly in just 4 years, you know, maybe that's the universe's way of telling me, like, hey, you know, grooming just isn't your path. You know, you need to find something else that you're passionate about. So I don't know. I'm just gonna manifest things, and whatever is meant to be will be. You know, I really still want to go back to school for, you know, vet assistant or a vet tech. And again, working at a vet clinic, I could have easily gotten my foot in the door to do something like that, because vet med was always my first love. Ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a veterinarian. I always wanted to work with animals, and dog grooming just kind of fell into my lap, pretty much. Like, it was an idea that my friend had, and I was like, that's a good idea. I think I'll pursue that, you know? So, but vet med was always my first love. So I would still love to go back to school and just learn and, you know, maybe pursue that someday. And I know, for those of you who are vet meds, vet assistants, things like that, I am very well aware that the same kind of burnout can happen in those jobs as well. Am I going to go back to school? I don't know. Am I going to eventually have my own little tiny at-home grooming shop? I don't know. Am I going to do both? I don't know. Am I going to just completely leave the animal industry altogether? I have no idea. Like, I'm just very unsure right now. The only thing that I am sure of right now is that I made the right decision to leave. You know, it's nothing personal towards anybody. It's nothing personal towards any business. It's just me. It's me, and I just had to separate myself from it. I kind of feel like a loser a little bit, you know, leaving such a good job that could have offered me so many opportunities and so many different areas to grow and build as a person in that industry. I feel kind of like a loser that I left. So I've been beating myself up about that. I just feel like I failed myself. I feel like I look like an idiot. I don't know. I'm really beating myself up over this. And the other thing I'm struggling with is what is known as groomer fever, okay? If you're a groomer, you've probably heard this term before, but I am struggling with a little bit of groomer fever, because I don't know what it is, and I don't understand the science behind it, but once you start grooming, once you start getting into dog grooming, and then you leave dog grooming, you almost have sort of an identity crisis, because when you get into dog grooming, you throw your entire self into it. You throw your entire being into it. And, you know, you take classes, seminars, read, research, you know, to try to better yourself at this craft, because it is a craft, okay? Not anybody can just do it. You know, it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of education. There's constant learning. There's always new things that you can learn and to get better. And once you get into that, and then you leave, you feel like you can't do anything else but groom. Groomer fever. Like, I can't do anything else. Like, that's what I feel right now. Like, what other job could I possibly do right now besides grooming? So I'm still trying to find a job that I can do, but also at the same time I feel like I can't do anything unless it's dog grooming. So I I don't know. I'm really getting hit with the groomer fever right now. It's pretty intense. Like I just don't know what to do with myself. Like I'm a dog groomer. That's who I am. Like I can't do anything else. So yeah, that is all that I have for this video. Thank you guys for listening to me and for watching this video. If any of you out there are groomers watching this video, dog groomers, I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from. It's very hard to express these kind of things to people who aren't groomers because it's kind of explaining one language to another language that you don't understand. You know, when I talk about these things, like it's very hard to get people to understand who are groomers to understand where I'm coming from. But if you are a dog groomer, then you do kind of understand where I'm coming from and how I'm feeling. So if you guys are groomers, leave me a comment. Let me know if you have ever gone through anything similar. You know, what you did if you left grooming and then came back to it. You know, just let me know. Let's have a full-blown conversation about it. So, but just thank you guys for listening to me talk and ramble and just let me go through my whole journey with this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please go down, give a huge thumbs up, subscribe, turn on all notifications. I am going to be doing YouTube full-time for a little bit until I can find something else. So, you know, make sure you are subscribed because there's going to be regular videos coming. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much. And I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye.